Good morning, Alex here. And if you are here, you want to ship good code in 2026 and you want to ship fast. Well, I hope you had a wonderful Christmas day yesterday. This video is one day late, but we're going to be having a nice little coffee and a nice little chat. And we're going to talk about how I'm planning to change my workflow in 2026 and all the nice things I want to implement to make sure that we continue shipping fast in my team and we have good high quality code. In the age of AI, there's a lot of changes happening and I want to be ahead of a lot of these trends. And so this is my list of things on how I'm going to approach 2026 from a software development perspective. So let's jump right in with the first. I actually have three that I want to cover before we talk about my stack, which a lot of you, I'm sure, are here to hear about. So the first one I have here is actually stacked diffs. And I think this is something that's been popularized by Graphite in the past, but now with AI, it's becoming even more relevant. A lot of the times we think the bottleneck is writing code, and so we've built a lot of agentic tooling around allowing developers to write more code. But the real bottleneck in many teams, and I see this in my team, is actually the reviewing part of the code. Now, there's also some advancements on that with CodeRabbit and Graphite-style and all these other code review tools. But in my opinion, you still will have some human in the loop that will need to be involved in that process. And StackDiff is the UX that I'm betting on for 2026. But first, for those that aren't familiar with the concept of stacked diffs, I think it's important to understand what we're moving away from and what we're going towards. So typically with pull requests, the way it works is you branch off of main, and this is even assuming you're doing some sort of trunk-based development. If you're doing feature branches that are a little longer lived, maybe you want to look into trunk-based development first, and then we'll apply the stack diff methodology on top of that. But regular trunk-based development is you branch off, you write some code, and then you wait for review, right? As a developer, you might want to have something build off of this. You're often waiting for this to be brought into main in order to branch off again, write your additional code, review, etc. This process actually makes it so you're more likely to do more code in a single PR, which just makes the problem worse. You are going to put more code, and so it's going to take longer to review because there's more files to review. And so this process kind of makes you go a little bit slower. Now, if you compare that to stacked diffs, the idea is when you branch off, you write your code, you write a very small unit of code, and then you send that off for review right away. So you end up with a PR that is likely one file. Maybe it just creates a feature flag. Maybe it just creates an endpoint, but it won't be the full feature that you want to release yet. You just want something that builds that could be brought into main. And so the first benefit is just by having these PRs being smaller, the time to review will also be smaller and you'll get a lot more merges into main. Now, the concept of stacking means that you're going to create a branch off of that branch. So as a developer, you can keep coding your feature. Maybe you created the endpoint and now you're going to go on the client side and you're going to create a hook that's able to fetch this. And then that little piece of code, again, you're going to send off for review, likely a one file type of change. And then that's going to be small enough to have a small review that we can also bring into main. And you keep doing that and you build your feature iteratively with all of these branches that branch off of each other. So as a developer, you're never blocked by the pull request review that is happening concurrently. Now, this is all possible to do with just regular Git commands, but it gets a little bit tricky when, say, the first review or maybe the second review actually has some changes that are requested. Then you would need to rebase all of your branches that are based off of that branch, go make the change, and then try to fix all of your history across all of these branches. And this is why Graphite was born, where it decided to create a better UX, a better experience around all of that kind of stack diffing that you'll be doing. So Graphite is a UX built on top of GitHub that enables that nice code review experience and all of the rebasing across the branches that are based off of each other. So why do I think that this is going to be a bigger trend in 2026? Graphite has existed for a little while now. Well, I really believe that with AI writing a lot of code, we end up with these gigantic pull requests. It may go in multiple files, it may one shot a huge feature. And so it's going to be more important than ever to have the AI break out its work in all of these micro pull requests. And then more people will gravitate towards solutions such as Graphite to do the reviewing of those PRs. And it seems like the team at Cursor also believes the same thing because they went ahead and acquired Graphite and brought it under their umbrella. So, what does that mean? Your coding editor and now your pull request review UX are kind of becoming one. I'm very excited to see what they're going to be doing with this. Does it mean you're going to have a better pull request review experience in Cursor? Does it mean that the AI agents are going to be doing stack diffs more natively into the IDE? I'm definitely keeping my eyes open for this one this year. Another thing that confirms that this is going to be trendy in 2026 is Jared Palmer actually announced that GitHub is looking to do stack diffs natively on GitHub as well. So you can see just a markety version of the UX and what it could be here, but you're going to have all of your branches stacking on top of each other in your pull request review UI. Anyway, so this was the first thing I wanted to touch on what I want to put a little bit more emphasis on in 2026, and it's orchestrating the Git workflow, the pull request review, to allow me and my team to ship faster, but also to leverage AI in a way that's actually actionable and we can bring in the code to our production code base without feeling like we're just blindly accepting all the AI code and bringing that in. So I'm very excited about stack diffs. The second thing I'm going to be focusing on is actually extending a lot of the methodologies that we now embraced in 2025 as developers for agentic coding. If anything, 2025 was the year of the Claude codes, the open code, the GitHub Copilot everywhere, the code review bots, and it's really augmented the developer experience in a way that I didn't expect, but it hasn't extended to the rest of the folks that I interact with on a daily basis. How do we bring the business people that want to prioritize features and the product managers that want to build great features and design the next features and manage the roadmap? I feel like the agentic nature of how we work as developer hasn't reached them yet. And a lot of that might be because these tools are CLIs, like you're running Claude Code in the terminal, and maybe the not so technical folks on the team aren't that comfortable with running a CLI. So we need to build UIs for them. We need to build UX. We need to integrate into their tool so that they start using a more agentic workflow. I'm personally deeply interested in that. And I've got a side project going where I'm trying to build a Claude code for product feature specking that works in a very similar way to all of these agentic chat session tools, but not for develop for the businessy folks that need to have somewhat an understanding of the code and the product, but to do road mapping, prioritization, and feature specking. And obviously, a lot of the project managements now have AI in them. If we look at, say, Linear, they say there's AI workflows from modern product teams. They have the ability to trigger code reviews, trigger even the actual coding agents that are going to go and build out the features. But it's not orchestrated in a way where I'm working in an agentic augmented way, the same way a developer might be doing agentic coding when using their daily tool, which is their IDE. One tool my team has used for a while now is actually ClickUp. And I think 2 weeks ago, they've released these agents that you can customize. I don't know why their avatar is a kid, but you can craft and create specific agents on the ClickUp platform, and then you can assign them to tasks. And this really lives into your project management tool. And this might be closer to what I'm seeing, but it's still not this agentic workflow where my tool as a product manager is just augmented with more context, more tools, and more knowledge of all the product in general. I'm really excited about expanding the horizon of where agentic workflow lives in the product development lifecycle, not just to focus on the software development, but also the specking out, maybe even the QA side, the documentation, the user documentation, the training, everything around a software product should be augmented with agents in a Claude Code, open code type of way. Now, my third priority for shipping fast in 2026 will be code defined infrastructure. And this is really different than infrastructure as code. If you're curious about my thoughts on this, be sure to watch my video from last week where I really break down how frameworks and libraries are evolving to be infrastructure aware. And the biggest mindset shift that I've had here is that you don't want your infrastructure as code to be your source of truth of what infrastructure is needed. Your application code itself has the intent of what infrastructure that you need. If you're referring to a queue in your application code, well, you need the infrastructure provisioned for that queue. Furthermore, if you're shipping fast and you're doing things like stacked diffs, you want to be able to provision all of that infra on demand for a specific commit or for a specific PR, have a preview environment up and running so that you can do all of your testing and quickly merge that back into your trunk. And I'll even encapsulate in this point that this year in 2026, I want to do more advanced type things within my repo that is not necessarily writing application code. And I've covered 5 of these tips in my 2 weeks ago video where I'm doing things like code gen, building TypeScript plugin, bundler plugin, and I'm definitely going to focus more on the developer experience because not only is it better for developers, but it provides a lot of guardrails for AI when it builds features off of the specs and the plans that you give it. So make sure your lint rules are strong and you have all of the type safety that allows AI to move fast as well. Last but not least, what is my stack? What am I shipping in 2026? Well, that is the question. I think a lot of people are going to be framework hopping. There's definitely TanStack Start that has a lot of potential and has a lot of people excited about. Personally, I've built a lot of tooling around Next where I've gotten to a point where I know how to organize my repository, my folder structure. I have nice type safe pages, search parameters, path parameters. And so I don't see a big benefit of moving. And obviously, I'm sure a lot of you guys have large applications that maybe aren't side projects that you're not going to be migrating over. And so the same for me. That doesn't mean I'm not going to be looking out for all of these changes and all the new things. I know TanStack has released a new AI package that maybe is better than the Vercel AI SDK. Not convinced yet, but if I'm integrating some AI, maybe I'll spin off a little project to test it out. So the main framework still will be Next, augmented with all the nice utilities that I like to use in Next projects. And that's things like Next Safe Action and my own custom built plugins and utilities. Shadcn has also grown on me, and Tailwind is still my styling tool of choice. And so I'll be continuing to use those tools as well. Now, from an infrastructure perspective, that's the other reason I kind of like Next. If you're deploying on something like Vercel, it's so easy to get everything provisioned on a commit level where you can have your preview environments and your framework defined infrastructure. I'm also likely going to be using the new Vercel workflow dev kit to have durable workflows with things like queues and the ability to resume and retry a lot of operations, again, without having to worry about the infrastructure provisioning of that library. For my database, I'm choosing PlanetScale because it scales amazingly well, but also because it has safe migrations and database branching. Safe migrations is great from a PR review perspective and moving fast as a team, that means we can have no downtime database migrations and bring features in, including schema changes, much faster. The branching piece of PlanetScale allows us to do preview environments with their own database branch so that when we go and do testing, we have the database matching the one database per branch type of infrastructure. And I'm very happy with Drizzle. 1.0 should be coming out in 2026. And so I'm going to be continuing to use that to connect to my database. That's all the topics I had for us today. Happy holidays again. Merry Christmas. Oh, and like and subscribe because this YouTube channel is not going anywhere for the next year. And there's going to be a lot more tips and tricks. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.